I'm Tom, and strap yourself in because this could be a long one. We have my Premier League predictions for 2025-2026 season. And starting us off in 20th, I have Burnley. I just don't think they're a strong enough side to compete with the Premier League. We've seen that before. I don't think we've seen enough of a change. I also don't think they've been ambitious enough in this transfer window to stay up. There's an absolutely catastrophic gap between the Premier League teams and the Championship teams. And I know Burnley did well in the Championship, especially defensively. I'm not saying they didn't, but that's a whole different ball game to the Premier League. And I don't think they've been ambitious enough in their signings. Haven't seen enough in attack and go forward. I just look at their team, and if I'm honest, the only teams I think they could finish higher than is Leeds and Sunderland. I just don't think they're good enough to stay up. And then in 19th, I have Leeds. And this is a team that I actually would really like to stay in the Prem. I think they're a good addition, loyal fan base, brilliant sort of stadium, Ellen Road, brilliant stadium. I'd like to see them stay up, but again, I haven't seen enough activity. You look at the teams that have stayed up in recent years, none to be honest, but the teams that have stayed up previously, they do tend to spend a lot. And I haven't seen that from Leeds. I haven't seen them spend enough to make me think, yeah, you got a really good chance. And again, look, we've seen them do well in the Championship, but this is just different. And that gap between Championship and Premier League is growing and growing and growing. And I don't think I've seen enough to think that Leeds will be able to deal with it. Now in 18th, if I'm honest with you, I want to put Sunderland. You know what I mean? Like, I want to go pretty template here and say Sunderland. I'm going to go bottom three are the three that have come up. And, you know, we'll get onto it, but first and second is something else. But just for the sake of keeping things interesting, I'm not. I really think, if I'm honest, bottom three will go back down. Sunderland should be in that, because the fact of the matter is, Sunderland, no one really thought they were going to come up. Like, if we're honest about it, no one really thought they were going to come up. But I'm going to go Brentford. Look, Brentford have been gutted. They've lost their manager. They've lost their goalie. They've lost their top scorer. They've lost their captain. It looks like they're going to lose Visser. Like, they've been gutted. And I think losing their manager is quite big, because that's kind of the one constant in these mid-table teams that keep them going. And I think he's quite good. And now they've lost him. So I think they're really going to struggle. I was torn between, look, if I'm going to keep Sunderland, if I'm not putting Sunderland in the bottom three, I was torn between them and West Ham. And ultimately, I just think the way that Brentford have been absolutely gutted, yeah, it's not looking good. Now, the reason why I'm going for Sunderland in 17th is for a few reasons. Now, I know, again, no one really thought they were going to come up. A bit of a gap between them and like there was a bit of a gap. They got through it, right? And they've also had a few big players leave the club, but they've also spent a lot. Like, they've thrown the book at it. They want to stay up. They've thrown the book at it. They're spending a lot of money. And, you know, the time where Derby back in the Premier League, I'm really happy for it. I want them to stay up. Big club, another north of England. You've got so many in London, like another north of England club. I want them to stay up. That time where Derby in the Premier League is going to be really good. That Stadium of Light is going to be so difficult to go to and win. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win, but they might nick a few draws. Not against, I expect, you know, your top 10 teams to beat them. But those mid-table sides to lower table sides, I expect to really struggle at the Stadium of Light and even lose. I think that might be enough to just claw staying up. 16th, I have Wolverhampton Wanderers. I quite like Wolves. I like the colours, I like the badge, I like the team. A decent little club. Nice to have a Midlands club there as well. But losing Ait-Nouri and losing Cunha, who were directly involved in over half of their goals, is a catastrophe. And I haven't seen who they, you know, I know they've got a Wolfie Garris, but they might do all right this season. They might well do pretty good. And maybe sometimes you see teams that lose that out and out kind of direct goal scorer that kind of funnels through. And actually the level raises as a whole. I think we looked at City before they had Haaland, and look, Haaland's a fantastic striker, but City, before they had Haaland, actually scored as a team the season before they had Haaland more goals. So When Haaland came in and scored 36 goals in his first season, before that, the season before, Manchester City actually scored more goals as a team than they did with the Haaland season. It's just that when Haaland came in, he was the focal point. So the goals are more spread out the season before. And what I'm trying to say is that what we can see is that a team that has an out-and-out striker, number 9, a finisher, can score lots of goals, but as a team, they seem like less of an attacking threat. Because you don't know where that goal is going to come from before they had Haaland. And this is why I've disagreed with that idea that Arsenal have needed a striker to go and win the league. Look, Real Madrid did fine before they got Mbappe. We might see that with Wolves. That's an absolute possibility. However, I'm not going to just gamble that. I think the safer bet is to go, yeah, they're going to finish 16th. 15th, West Ham. Look, it just looks pretty bleak if you're a West Ham fan. I don't really see anything working for them. I'm not blown away by anything they've done. Trying to sold or bought. It just looks pretty bleak. The stadium's been complained about for years. Like I look at that and go, do you know what? Yeah, if I'm a West Ham fan, it's looking pretty bleak. 14th, I have Nottingham Forest. I know they did so good last season, but towards the end of last season, we saw that began to sort of pitter off and their performances started to dwindle a bit and they dropped a few places given kind of where we were expecting them to finish around mid-season and the hopes they had for the end and where they finished, chucking in a few extra fixtures, some European fixtures. Look, I know they've had some decent business, keeping Morgan Gibbs-White's good for them, I get that, like it's not awful, but in reality, I look at them and I go, as a club, they massively overperformed last season. That started to show towards the end, and now we're tucking in more fixtures. I just don't think it's going to carry on. You know, down to my FPL team, I haven't even picked Chris Wood because he just isn't. His underlying numbers don't seem that good, and I just don't expect it to. How long can that carry on for? So, yeah, 14th for me. 13th, I have Bournemouth because when I look at them, they've lost like their whole back line. And that's not good. When you look at where they've gone, it shows the calibre of player they were. You know, Kirkez has gone to Liverpool. So they've lost their left back to the champions of England. I'm gonna mispronounce his name, but the defender has gone to Real Madrid. So they've lost a defender who has gone to one of the biggest clubs, if not the biggest club in the world. Like, when you look at who they've lost these players to, you start to realise how good the players were. So when you lose them, what impact is that going to have on the club? And they'll find that, but the only reason I'm giving them 13th is because they're Bournemouth. They'll find a way, they always do. And the mid-table finish isn't bad, but yeah, that worries me. In at 12th, I have Manchester United. Look, they've recruited really, really well. Like, credit where credit's due. Man United have recruited really, really well. And I don't agree with it. I think the way they can spend that money, and then they've been giving up tea and coffee and firing staff and all this because they got no money, but now they've gone and spent all this money on a credit card. And you've got clubs like Newcastle, clubs like Brighton that can't spend their money, Villa that can't spend their money. But then United, who finished 15th, get to go and spend all their money, 300 million. If I'm honest, I just think United are shit. And I really think Amorim's shit. Like, I don't think he's a good manager at all. And I think the wheels are going to fall off under Amorim and it will start to show and they're going to finish 12th. No European football's good for them. Great recruitment, but United are shit. Amorim's shit and it's going to fall apart. And he needs to be put under some pressure now because Ten Hag left, Amorim came in and United did worse. In the 11th, I have Everton Football Club. Look, I think Everton's new stadium looks really good. It's obviously brand new, right? So it's going to be built for atmosphere. It's going to be loud. You've got some loyal fans in Everton. So that looks really good. They've got Jack Grealish has just come in along with a handful of other signings. I think their signings look quite good. Some smart recruitment. I do think the squad is quite thin. Like, I look at the squad going, you get an injury, that concerns me. But Grealish will level up that whole front line, I think. Pickford's perhaps overrated, but a good goalie, you know, trust and reliable. New stadium, like smart recruitment. The manager's good. Like, I like Everton, good mid-table team. The only slight concern that makes me think they might be a bit lower, and I could probably switch United and Everton, would be if there was an injury. I did have Everton below United. Up to the Jack Grealish signing gives me a bit more confidence. At 10th, smack bang in the middle of the pack, I have Fulham. Look, they're just the same as last year. Nothing's really changed. Mid-table team. I've seen teams below them change in a negative way. I've seen teams above them change in a positive way. So I think they're just gonna stay where they were. Decent team, mid-table side. At 9th, I have Brighton. Now, I feel a bit proud of Brighton because, again, they just can't spend their money the way they should because of PSR, and it's not fair when you've got United spending that, but it's neither here nor there. At 8th, I have Tottenham Hotspur. I actually think they've got a good manager. I think recruitment has been fantastic this summer. Couple of injuries aren't looking great, but look, I think recruitment's been really good. I think last season was a massive blip for Spurs and for United. United are shit, but still. In at 7th, I've got the team that you're probably sitting there thinking, hang on a second, why haven't you mentioned, whoa, we're in the top 10 and I still haven't mentioned them. I've got Crystal Palace. I think they're being really slept on. I don't know what it is. I'm looking at Palace, I think they're being really underrated. Look, that Europa League banishment, if you like, is a hit. But actually, from a Premier League point of view, that just means they got less demanding competition. And I think we saw it at the Community Shield, the FA Cup. They're a good team. They're a team that can win competitions. They've just won the Community Shield against the defending champions. Granted, it wasn't our strongest side and it's a new team, blah, blah, blah. Bottom line is, they've got a Community Shield under their belt. They've got an FA Cup under their belt. If they keep Gueye, which I don't think they will, I think Gueye will move to Liverpool. But I think they'll keep Eze. If they keep the pair of them, Eze and Gueye, they've got the best English defender. Eze, who's a fantastic player. I don't actually see him leaving. I know Spurs are on talks. I don't think he's going to go to Arsenal. I think he's more likely to go to Spurs than Arsenal. Great pickup for Spurs. But I kind of see him staying. And I think Gueye will leave, but keeping Eze, that's huge. That's huge for Crystal Palace. And I think we're seeing that they're a good side now. And they're a Europa League side. They are. They rightfully qualified for the Europa League. And they're not going to play in the Europa League. They're going to play in the Conference League, which is a less demanding competition. So my top 6, as you can tell, is the same as last year, but it is in a different order. And in its 6th, I've got Newcastle United. I like Newcastle, the time where Derby, all of this, brilliant. This isn't really their fault, but the fact of the matter is they have had no real signings. They've not been able to sign anyone they wanted to sign. They're probably going to lose Isak to Liverpool. I mean, that looks kind of, I know it's up in the air, but more likely than not, especially if Newcastle get Wissa, which, by the way, is a really good pickup for Newcastle. But if they get Wissa, I think Isak's going to leave to Liverpool. This isn't their fault. They've not been able to spend the way they should be allowed to spend, especially if Man U can do that. They should be allowed to spend, but they're not. And I look at the top, and it's really poorly run, which is a shame because they've got a fantastic manager in Eddie Howe. In at 5, I've got Aston Villa. Look, they did really well last season. I know people are saying they're going to be really bad. People got quite low. They're going to fall off this season because they haven't really signed. I think that's one of their strengths. I don't think they really needed to overhaul. And again, look, that's not really their fault. PSR means they can't spend the way they'd like to spend. It's a real shame. It's shit. But I kind of think that's a strength. When you're looking at teams like Chelsea, teams like City, teams like Liverpool, who are overhauling their team, United overhauling their team, and you've got a team that did strong last year, did well last year in Aston Villa, that have been able to keep that side, haven't needed to add too much to it. But what they have done is add a bit of depth. They haven't strengthened their first 11, but they've added depth to that side. Any injuries, extra fixtures, they've got that covered. And I think that's really strong. Keep that first 11, kick on from last season, strengthen from last season, bring in some depth, add some depth that can perhaps break into that first 11 and just add a bit of cover. To me, that looks like a really good business. At 4th, I have Chelsea. Look, pretty template, but they finished last season really well. They've unexpectedly won the Club World Cup. They're in a great mood, man. You know what I mean? They're really good spirits at that club at the moment. And they do overbuy. Like their finances are finally their finances are starting to balance a bit, which is good. Some sort of balanced finances, and the recruitment is good. Like I'm not going to sit here and say João Pedro, Liam Delap, they're good signings. But I do still think it's overbuying. They buy everyone. They just buy for the sake of buying, and then they sell, and then it's too much. It's like a revolving door, that club. Too much business, too much depth. But what it is talent, and it is depth. It's talented depth, which is good. And they've done some good signings. I think they'll do really well this season. That top three, I think, are slightly better than Chelsea, but I could see Chelsea coming third. I don't think they're going to come. I think first and second, it's pretty set. I think third could challenge it. Third won't win, but third could challenge second. I think fourth could challenge third, but I don't really see Chelsea getting above third. And now we're into my top three. Starting us off at third, I've got Arsenal. Now let me just hear me out. I've got Arsenal. People would say when City won the league and won the league and won the league, they're going to fall off at some point. They can't keep this up. And we saw that last season. They can't keep this up. They're going to fall off. When it's Arsenal finishing second, no one seems to care. Oh, I can keep finishing second. Yeah, second again. I think it's actually worse. If you're the best team, you can go and kick on it. When you can keep coming second, you just keep falling short. That's more demoralising than constantly winning the league. That's demoralising. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think you can just keep pushing and falling short every time and then just keep doing it again. In my mind, that's not really doable. And so I think they missed their boat. I think Arsenal have missed their boat, is what I'm trying to say. I think they finished second so many times. They had their chance to finish first, didn't quite do it, and that opportunity's gone. They've missed their boat. That's how I look at this Arsenal team. And as I said before, everyone said they needed an out-and-out number 9. Maybe they did, right? I don't know if that suits their style of play. What they did need was some cover to take some stress off of Saka. They needed another Saka-level signing. Someone like Eze to play off the left. Saka and Eze. Something like that. You've got Eze as a Saka-level player. This is not just Saka. Don't know if that was a number 9, per se. As I said before, I think there was too much emphasis on that. We saw it with City. City won the league without Haaland. They get Haaland, and yeah, okay, they win the league with Haaland. But they actually scored less with an out-and-out striker. It's just that he was the focal point. I think what I do is I look at Liverpool and City, I look at that club, I look at the signings, yeah, that they are title challengers. I think it's between those two. I don't think Arsenal will really push them. I think we'll see them do well, but I think we'll see a 2-horse race again between City and Liverpool, with how their clubs are run and how they've spent and who they've bought. Fantastic. These last two, I've really ummed and ahed about. I think it's so, so close. All through, like from the end of last season, pretty much to now, I've thought City are going to win the league. I've really thought City are going to win the league. It's this Isak deal. I've got Manchester City in second, and I really thought they were going to win the league the entirety of pre-season. Look, Man City had I think we all agree, had a very poor season last season, extremely off season last season, and still they finished third. Very nearly finished second. And since then, they've spent £300 million. People talking about Liverpool spending. Let's actually, and you can look at net spend as well. If we look at net spend, Liverpool haven't really spent again. But even if you don't look at net spend, just look at spending. City have spent £300 million, 330 million euros, with more signings to come. If they go and get Donnarumma for 50 million, let's think about that. If they go and get Donnarumma as well, which is massively rumoured, if they go and get Rodrigo as well, which is massively rumoured, if they go and get Rodrigo and Donnarumma, they've already spent £300 million. Nobody's talking about this. No one is talking about the fact Man City have spent, again, off the back of finishing third, £300 million. And we saw, they've got new coaching staff as well, and we saw the effects that had towards the back end of last season when they came through that blip and started to perform really well again and ended up finishing third. That was the back end of last season. So I thought, fucking hell, they've done that. Now they've spent £300 million. Look like they're going to sign Donnarumma. Look like they could sign Rodrigo. That's scary. And people just aren't talking about it. We're talking about spending, not Liverpool. Let's look at City again. I think because we're so used to seeing City sign big names, we're so used to seeing City spend big money, and we're not used to seeing Liverpool. It's the wow factor. Let's got Liverpool. In reality, City have still spent the most. Then Man U, then Arsenal, then Chelsea. Like, these clubs have spent the most. Still not Liverpool. And then net spend, Liverpool are even lower. Like, City have spent crazy money. And they've bought fantastic players. And they've got new coaching staff. And we saw at the back end of last season, the revitalisation, them doing well again. And we've seen before when Pep does bad, he tends to do really good. Even now, everything is saying City are going to win this league. People are just, I don't know what's going on. People are sleeping, like just overlooking them massively. And I think, if I'm talking from my head, City will win the league. So, winning the league, I've got Liverpool doing the back-to-back. If I'm honest, my head, as I say, City for the longest time. They've done what they always do, not won the league, so we'll throw 300 million at it. You know, Pep does that. That's what Pep does. He's a money manager. That's how he succeeds. But I look at Liverpool, and I really thought as well that we've won the Prem now, especially with what happened with Jota. I thought we'd just drop off because that's a prolonged period of time. I thought we'd just drop off, taper off towards the end, and just lose it because we've already done it. And I thought what we'd do is we'd go and right the wrong from last year and win the Champions League. Kind of right that wrong, do it for Jota sort of thing. Like, we did so well in the league phase and then dropped it against PSG, who are a fantastic side, but we could have done better, should have beaten them. Drop the ball. I think we're going to right that wrong. And then win the Champions League, but lose the Premier League second to City. And I thought that for the longest time. I kind of still think that now. But I look at our signings. I just didn't expect this window. I didn't think we'd sign Frimpong and Kerkez. I thought we'd sign Wirtz. I thought we'd do Wirtz and Frimpong, or Wirtz and Kerkez. Then we've gone and got Ekitike. Then we've got, obviously, Mamardashvili's coming as well. We've got another Pexi's young keeper come in. It looks like we're going to sign Gay. I think we'll get Gay. Looks like we're going to get Isak. I think we'll get Isak. You're looking at this business, you're going, you've got Isak, Kerkez, Frimpong, Wirtz, Ekitike, Gay, obviously you've got that young Italian Parma defender's just come in. Mamardashvili to back up the goalkeeper spot. Like, I look at that and I just go, yeah, that's scary. That's scary, man. That's such good business. And yeah, I mean, I look at that and is it enough to beat Pep spending? I'm going to bet that it is. Do you know what I mean? A young, hungry, talented squad. I'm going to back us to do double as well. I'm going to back us to win the Champions League and the Premier League. And I think with Liverpool losing Salah to AFCON, it's really difficult. You've got AFCON, you've got obviously the Jota thing, the squad's been torn apart and put back together again. It's going to be difficult. I just think maybe when Salah's back from AFCON, we'll really kick on. And now we've got some cover for when Salah goes to AFCON. But yeah, it doesn't look good for Liverpool in my mind, especially with AFCON. But I do think the champions of England will be Liverpool. So now we'll look at some individual awards. Starting us off, Golden Boot. I think Haaland will win the Golden Boot. I think City will come second. I think they've still got a focal point, Erling Haaland, through the middle. They've got some fantastic signings to help set him on and push him through and get the assists. You know, people say Rodrigo will go and score this many goals. Look, he's not necessarily an out-and-out goal scorer, but what he can do is lay you up perfectly like Erling Haaland will have. He's a robot. I've got him getting the Golden Boot. Top assister, we've got Florian Wirtz. I don't think Salah, especially with AFCON, he's not going to go and get the Golden Boot, but Florian Wirtz, Ekitike, Isak, Gakpo, Salah, so many outlets to assist now. I just think him playing that high number 10 role with that front line, yeah, it's scary. Like, I think he'll be racking in assists non-stop. I've got him top assister. Now, the underdog, I've got Crystal Palace. As I said, I think people are sleeping on Crystal Palace. I think they're such a good surprise, maybe even Villa, but certainly Crystal Palace. I think the way the people are sort of putting them mid-table, I just don't know. I look at them, I think they're going really well this season. I really quite strongly think Crystal Palace are going to do really well and surprise people. Underdog, nearly as strong as I think City are going to win the league. And then the biggest underdog I've got, underachiever is United, man. The way they've spent, I just think they're shit. I think they're going to finish 12th. Spent so much money. Fodder, man. Fodder. Anyway, that's my Premier League predictions for the season, people. Let me know your thoughts on all of this, as well as your predictions in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching this. If you watched it to the end, I know it's a bit of a longer video. Yeah, let me know your thoughts, people. Know how this YouTube stuff works. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.